It started as a quiet whisper above our heads, a shape drifting against the velvet blackness of space. Most people didn't even notice. It wasn't plastered across the headlines. There was no grand countdown watched by millions. No cheers erupted from crowds as it rose into orbit. But there it was, gliding silently over the sleeping cities of Earth, a lone sentinel in the dark, China's Tiangong space station. Now something is stirring aboard that orbiting outpost. Something bigger than just science or politics or technology. It's ambition, yes, but not just the kind that aims to prove a point. It's the kind of ambition that reaches across time, that asks, what comes next? And refuses to wait for permission to answer. And for the first time, the world is beginning to feel the gravitational pull of what's happening above us. The Tiangong was never supposed to compete with the International Space Station, not in size, not in prestige, not in legacy. After all, the ISS is a global collaboration, built with the hands of 15 nations, home to astronauts from every corner of the planet. It floats above us like a monument to what we can do together. But Tiangong? It was built in solitude, piece by piece, module by module, rising quickly, quietly, and with a focus that felt inevitable. And now China says that station is going to double in size. That might not sound like much. Doubling something that's already small doesn't usually raise eyebrows. But in space, volume means more than just elbow room. It means more experiments, more crew, more time, more control. And with every inch that Tiangong expands, the balance of space power shifts a little more. What was once a symbolic achievement is becoming a real foothold. A station not just surviving in orbit, but growing. The Tiangong, in its current form, is modest. 3 core modules arranged in a shape like a capital T, circling the Earth once every 90 minutes. It's functional, efficient, and surprisingly modern. Where the ISS shows its age in the patchwork of wires and clunky machinery, Tiangong gleams with the confidence of youth. But still, it's cramped. Only 3 astronauts at a time. Limited power, limited experiments, limited dreams. That limitation, it turns out, is exactly what China plans to eliminate. This new phase, quietly announced and now stirring with anticipation, will reshape the Tiangong station into something far more capable. 6 modules, twice the space, and most importantly, a new kind of docking hub, one that will allow more vehicles to visit, more people to arrive, and more pieces of the puzzle to connect. It's not just an expansion, it's a transformation. You see, Tiangong isn't being built to simply host astronauts. It's being built to host the future. And you can feel it in the language coming out of Beijing. This isn't just about China anymore. This is about opening the station to the world, about astronauts from countries that have never touched orbit preparing for their first journey, about reaching out to places that have watched space from afar and saying, "Come aboard." Pakistan is just the beginning. Their astronauts are being trained to live and work inside Tiangong. But the door doesn't close there. China is quietly making calls, shaking hands, offering a new seat at the spacefaring table. One not tethered to NASA, not bound by old alliances or legacy politics. For many nations, especially those long excluded from the exclusive space club, this isn't just an opportunity. It's a lifeline. But with every bold step upward, there's always something lurking below. In this case, it's the Long March 5B, the rocket tasked with launching these new modules. It's massive, powerful, essential, and terrifying. The rocket's design, though clever, comes with a flaw so big it literally falls out of the sky. After launch, instead of safely crashing into the ocean like most boosters, the Long March 5B's core stage tumbles back to Earth, uncontrolled, unpredictable, and very, very heavy. On more than one occasion, its descent has turned into a fiery rain of metal that crashes into the sea, or worse, near towns and cities. People look up and hold their breath, not in awe, but in fear. Officials in China have tried to reassure the world. They're working on it, they say. They'll improve the design, make it safer, more reliable. But as the world watches the sky, uncertainty hangs in the air like the final seconds of a countdown. When ambition soars, consequences fall. And it's not always clear where they'll land. Still, the plan moves forward. The next long march is already scheduled. But this time, it's not just hauling another room into orbit. It's delivering something far more ambitious. A telescope. Not just any telescope. A space observatory that China hopes will rival, or even surpass, the legendary Hubble. A machine that will peer deeper into the universe than anything they've built before. A 2.5 million megapixel eye staring into the unknown. It will orbit close to Tiangong, close enough that astronauts can reach it on spacewalks, service it, upgrade it, protect it. Because this telescope isn't just meant to sit and watch. It's meant to evolve, to look for dark matter, to study galaxies, to trace the fingerprints of the cosmos, and maybe, just maybe, to find something out there we never expected. This is where we are now, standing on the edge of something we can feel but not yet see, something growing quietly above our heads, built module by module, orbit by orbit. The Tiangong is no longer just a Chinese achievement. It's becoming a stage, a frontier, a question mark burning in the sky, daring us to answer with more than just headlines or competition. And the truth is, something big is happening with China's space station. They say space is cold, vast, and lifeless. But up there, floating above the world, China's Tiangong space station feels anything but. Inside that metal sanctuary, there's breath, motion, laughter, sweat. Human lives woven into wires and circuits, drifting in and out of radio contact with Earth. Every time we glance at the stars, we imagine distant futures, alien landscapes, and bold explorers. But in China's orbiting outpost, that future is already happening, quietly, meticulously, and with a determination that the world is only just beginning to understand. The original Tiangong, 3 modules shaped like a capital T, was a marvel in its own right, constructed with astonishing speed and precision. From launch to assembly, the pieces came together like clockwork between 2021 and 2022. But time has a strange effect on things in space. What once felt vast now feels cramped. Where silence reigned, voices now echo off the walls of a station straining to meet the needs of its mission. And while 3 astronauts can sustain operations, monitor instruments, and conduct research, it's clear the current space simply isn't enough. Not for what China is planning. There's a quiet urgency in the air. Scientists, engineers, mission planners, all of them are pushing, dreaming, reaching. This isn't just about adding new rooms to a cosmic house. It's about creating a space where ideas can breathe, where ambition can stretch its legs, where limits vanish into the darkness beyond the solar panels. That's why they're building, expanding, preparing. What's coming next isn't just an upgrade, it's a transformation. The first step? A new multi-docking module that feels more like the spine of something living than a cold machine. With 6 arms ready to reach out and hold future modules, spacecraft, and perhaps even visiting astronauts from other nations, it's both infrastructure and invitation. China is envisioning something more than national pride. They're imagining a collaborative future. It's subtle, but the implications are enormous. The talk of hosting astronauts from Pakistan isn't just diplomacy, it's a statement. For decades, international cooperation in space has revolved around the West. But now Tiangong beckons like a new lighthouse in orbit, and other countries are beginning to take notice. You can almost feel the hum of electricity behind it all, the tension that comes when change is no longer a question of if, but when. And yet, with every grand ambition, there comes a shadow, a reckoning with the problems no one wants to face, but everyone must solve. China's Long March 5B rocket is powerful, yes, but it has a history. When it lifts into the sky, it doesn't just leave exhaust in its wake. It leaves uncertainty, fear. Pieces of its massive core stage don't fall in carefully mapped trajectories. They fall where gravity takes them, into oceans, forests, deserts, and sometimes dangerously close to where people live. There's something haunting about that even as we ascend into the heavens, we still haven't fully mastered the cost of leaving Earth. Every launch is a gamble, not in whether the rocket will succeed, but in where its leftovers will land. And while Chinese officials speak of enhancing safety and controlled re-entry, those words don't offer much comfort to the families below who have watched burning metal streak across their skies. Still, they press on because they have to. The station won't build itself, and the sky won't wait. And besides, the next launch isn't just another piece of hardware. It's something more profound, a new telescope, a mechanical eye unlike anything China has ever built. This isn't just about seeing the stars. It's about seeing them with clarity so sharp, it might cut through the very fabric of time. With a mirror rivaling Hubble in size but crafted decades later with modern precision, this telescope promises glimpses into the unseen, into dark matter, into the unknown structure of the universe itself. But here's the catch. It won't float aimlessly. It will be placed near Tiangong, close enough to touch, close enough to repair, adjust, even upgrade on future spacewalks. Like a trusted companion, it will orbit in tandem, watching the cosmos while Tiangong nurtures the humans who built it. It's not just practical, it's poetic. There's something deeply moving about that image, an outpost of life circling the Earth, and right beside it, an artificial star that doesn't burn, but sees. And through its lens, maybe we see ourselves a little clearer too. In all this, you sense the emergence of something quiet but unstoppable. Not a race, not a competition, a rhythm, China's rhythm. Different from NASA's, different from SpaceX's. It's steadier maybe, more deliberate, but just as bold, just as determined. And what's more, they aren't building alone anymore. For years, astronauts from around the world have dreamed of space stations, but not everyone was invited. The International Space Station, still a symbol of unity, never included China. But now? Tiangong's airlock may open for the first time to someone who speaks a different language, who wears a flag not sewn in red and gold. That moment will be more than symbolic. It will be history breathing in zero gravity. That future is approaching, module by module. With every new piece launched, Tiangong grows not just in size, but in meaning. It becomes less a national experiment and more a global one. A sign that the skies above us are slowly being rewoven, not into the tangled politics of the past, but into a new tapestry of cooperation, curiosity, and courage. And as night falls on Earth and Tiangong orbits in silence, you have to wonder, how long before this becomes the norm? How long before the stars stop belonging to any one country and start belonging to all of us? But perhaps the most astonishing part of this whole transformation isn't just what China is building, or how fast they're doing it, or even the sheer scale of their ambition. It's what they're planning to do once it's all in place. Because hidden beneath the concrete facts and published mission statements is a dream that echoes something far older than rockets or solar arrays. It's the human instinct to reach out, not just across oceans, but across galaxies. And that dream is now taking the form of something truly unprecedented. The first steps toward a permanent home in space. Not a temporary outpost. Not a fragile research lab to be replaced every few years, but a home, a sanctuary. A proving ground for everything we've learned and everything we still don't understand about how to live beyond Earth. If China succeeds, Tiangong won't just be a scientific platform. It will be the foundation of something larger, something that leads to the moon and then beyond. We're not talking about vague visions or empty slogans. The Chinese Lunar Gateway Project, codenamed ILRS, the International Lunar Research Station, is no longer a whisper. It's being drafted, mapped, and budgeted. And it doesn't just aim to land a rover or plant a flag. It aims to build a permanent human presence on the moon's surface, possibly within the next decade. And the Tiangong space station? That's just the first brick in that wall. A trial run, a lab for training taikonauts, testing life support, managing long-duration missions, and mastering the logistics of sustaining people in hostile environments. In other words, rehearsal for the real show. When you trace the lines between what's being built in orbit and what's being designed for the lunar surface, you start to see it. The shape of the future, not just for China, but for humanity. A slow, methodical push outward. A ladder from the Earth to the moon. And Tiangong is the first rung. Of course, none of this is happening in a vacuum, politically or literally. America's Artemis program is surging forward, bolstered by SpaceX's Starship, and backed by a long list of international partners. India is rapidly advancing as well, building lunar landers and eyeing Mars. Europe has been weighing its role, while Russia looks increasingly isolated. And through all this, China has charted its own course, one that's now beginning to look less like a solo mission and more like an alternate future entirely. That alternate future doesn't rely on the legacy of the Apollo missions or the infrastructure of the ISS. Domestic technology and a uniquely Chinese philosophy of progress. It's quiet, efficient, ambitious, and brutally efficient. When something needs doing, they do it. There's no endless congressional wrangling, no drawn-out contracts between private companies, just action. And that's why this matters. Because if Tiangong expands the way it's meant to, if the modular segments continue to grow, if the docking ports fill with visiting ships, if the telescope aligns with the stars and the experiments return data that rewrites physics, then we're looking at more than just a second space station. We're looking at a seismic shift in how humanity lives off-world. For the first time, the center of gravity in low Earth orbit might tilt eastward, and when that shift happens, the entire conversation changes. China's space station has no political slogans posted on its walls. It has no dramatic press conferences. It just works. Day after day, it generates power, keeps humans alive, and supports research that could ripple through medicine, engineering, agriculture, and more. It quietly proves that sustainable life in orbit is not only possible, it's repeatable, scalable, and one day, inevitable. There's something poetic in that, in how a nation that was once seen as lagging behind in space exploration is now on the cusp of redefining it, in how a project that started with whispers of imitation is now laying down blueprints others may one day follow. The irony is not lost on the older space powers, nor is the challenge. For the people on board Tiangong, this is more than work, it's purpose. Every sunrise they see, every experiment they run, every repair they make, it all adds up to a larger vision. They know they are not just representing a country. They are representing a possibility, a path, a story where humans didn't let borders define who got to explore the stars. And perhaps that's the most powerful thing Tiangong has done. It has rewritten the narrative. In a world where space was often seen as a competition, one nation trying to outdo another, this station is something else entirely. It's a statement that the frontier is not closed, that there are still outposts to build, partnerships to form, mysteries to solve. Because when you look at Tiangong, not just as a machine or a mission, but as a symbol, it becomes clear what's really at stake. The question isn't whether China can lead in space. The question is what that leadership will look like. Will it be open? Will it be collaborative? Will it invite others in? So far, the signals are mixed, but promising. There's talk of expanding access to the station, of hosting scientists and astronauts from Africa, South America, and parts of Asia that have never had a chance to touch the stars. That matters. Because the future of space isn't going to be decided by a handful of nations with billion-dollar budgets. It's going to be decided by who has the courage to share the stars, and who has the power to reach them. And right now, in the cold silence of space, Tiangong drifts patiently. A machine, yes, but also a message. One that says, we are here, we are building, and the sky is only the beginning.